Hello, everyone. Hope you're doing well. I'm sure it's been good, tough 3 days with a lot happening, but, I just hope I can create the same excitement I hoped that I would be able to during this session. When I was preparing for this session and I was looking at the topic, I was like, okay, should I write a script? What should I, really put in? Because so much has happened in our school and our school system in the past 2 years. And then I told myself, just talk with from your heart. There is so much we've done in these past 2 years. There is so much that we've learned. We've been resilient as educationalists and teachers. So just go and talk about everything that you've witnessed, the way you've led, the way you have failed and stood up and tried again. And that's why I thought that instead of putting down a script, but obviously I have some slides that I will be referring to. I thought I'll talk about, our experience, our journey, okay, and how we have still, made it joyful. So I just have one request because I'm really excited about having all of you in person because I've been attending conferences online for the past 2-3 years, like the Vice Qatar conference and ISTI. Can everybody come in front if you don't mind? Because I'm actually excited that all of you are in person, if that's all right. Thank you so much. I would actually like to engage with all of you. Okay, so a little bit about myself. Yeah, this is fine. So a little bit about myself. My name is Rukaiya Salman, and though I have a finance background, but I completed my bachelor's in accounting and finance, and then did my CFA, and then but I switched to education, 4 years later, and I've been in this field for around 12 years. Also did my master's in it. And in these 15 years, I've not learned so much as I've learned in the last 2 years in the COVID times, because it has really taught us, what works, what doesn't work, how, we actually need to treat kids. We needed a disruption of this kind, to change things the way they should have changed maybe many years ago. So I'm going to be talking about that experience and a few edtech tools for a country like Pakistan. Because in Pakistan, obviously it's a developing country, internet doesn't work all the time, electricity goes very often. We are already struggling with a lot of issues in majority of the households. So when COVID came, where the mindset was already not for online classes, like what are online classes? What do you mean by online classes? Like before COVID, if we tried to have an online class, parents would completely reject the idea, right? So for a country where online classes were unthought of, where they were considered to be like non-existent, and they thought that was not education, right? To have a systematic disruption like this, okay, it was not about just coming up with a system that worked, it was also about educating those parents and educating those families that yes, things can still move on. So I think in the process, we've learned a lot more than we would have even learned. Like even if I worked for another 20 years, I would not have learned so much that these 2 years have taught me. And what I'm doing here today is I'm going to share my journey with you so that maybe, we can all play a part together. So what is this topic about? I'm not going to be solving any equity and access problems. I'm not going to be, going into any of the serious issues that the pandemic faced or the health issues, but generally talk about how, things were still positive. Like there were so many things, so many good things that came out of this disruption, okay? So a little bit of background about what Cedar School and colleges are. So it's not a very old organization. College is only 6-7 years old. And our school was launched from grade 6 to 11 just in 2019. So actually when the pandemic hit, we were only 7 months old. But I think it was a blessing in disguise that we were only 7 months old. Because if we were a 30-year-old institute, we would have said, things have to be done this way, no, things have to be done that way. We would have had many ifs and buts and no's. But no, we were only 7 months old, a very young workforce, very resilient, very adaptive, very flexible. That's why we did what not a lot of other schools in Karachi did. And maybe that's why we expanded so much. Like in these years when schools were actually closing down in Pakistan, our school expanded from 1 branch to 5 branches because our online program, our edtech tools were appreciated by everyone. So I just wanted to share a little bit about that. So this is what I just said, that when COVID-19 hit us, like for Pakistan, schools shut down in March. 2020, we were only 7 months old. And I call it the education earthquake. Like I said, this was unthinkable. Like maybe online classes and a lot of online programs were being run in US and UK and in a lot of different universities, but we had no such thing. It was unthinkable. It was completely rejected. So for a country which has problems in accessing internet, having the entire system going online was another problem. So we were not only educating ourselves and learning tools, we were also educating the families. Why is it important to adjust? How is it important to adjust? I think we all became counselors in the process and we learned so much. I know so much about people management now. You can give me anyone and I'll be able to talk to them and I'll be able to convince them, and that is the beauty of COVID. It taught you so many different skills. So going ahead, we asked ourselves, we were a very young team, but very flexible. So we asked ourselves that what is it that we can do to bring back the joy during this education earthquake? Now we're in this problem, we're in this fix. We're only a 7-month-old organization. We have a few students. We have this big problem in the world. I mean, we've not even had other problems. Like if you run schools for like 20, 30 years, you're like, okay, problem A, solve it like this. Problem B, solve it like that. This is problem Z, which has no solution, right? And we are just such few people. What do we do? And we said, okay, let's do what we are best at, and that is, be flexible. Take one day at a time. Let's give everyone what they want. So we had two options. Either drone between the waves and say, okay, this top A school is doing this, let's do that. Top B school is doing that, let's do that. But we didn't do that. We didn't want to follow anyone else. We wanted, to grab the 21st century surfboards and make our school run through 3 phases, okay? One was to cope with it, adjust, and once we felt that, yes, we have done enough of coping and adjusting, we wanted to transform things, right? So we introduced the CAT strategy at school, which basically is coping, adjusting, and transformation. The main thing was communication. We realized that parents are very lost. Families don't know what's going to happen next. Are schools going to open? Are they not going to reopen? Are we all going to die? Are we going to live through this? What is going to happen to exams, CIs, the Cambridge exams? Are they going to take place, not take place? Will our kids continue education? What will happen? All these parents had so many different questions, right? So we started communicating. We started communicating about every little and big thing. We talked about their online classes, we talked about exams, we talked about what we could offer them, because we felt that communication is something that is needed. It improves their morale, it makes them, feel better, because fear and doubt is, what gets to people, right? Do you agree with me? How many of you communicated more during COVID? Like even within your family, right? Didn't you feel that even your family members were like, needed that consolation that yes, things are going to get better? And if within our families, which are, so secure, felt so insecure, imagine what a school and their families were going through, especially if you had your kids in a school which was only 7 months old, right? So we started communicating a lot and we got really good feedback, and we knew that we were doing something right because parents appreciated that. Then we came up with a robust online program because CEDAR was already popular for being very good with tech tools. And there was so much going on all around the world that we have to, use tech in a certain way. So we felt, okay, tech is already our forte, then let's use that technology to become even better, We didn't know that we were going to stand out as one of the best schools with, an outstanding online program. We just knew that, like I said, we took one day at a time. We knew that we have to do something with our online program that stands out. And tech was already our forte. We had a lot of people in the team who were tech savvy, who knew about apps, which a lot of people in the city and the country didn't even know. We wanted to launch them even before COVID. But then obviously, like I said, there was no mindset, right? People were not receptive to the idea of online classes and using edtech tools. But now we were in a situation, we were like, okay, now this is our chance. We always wanted to launch these edtech tools, but the families were not very receptive. So now is our chance to, get this learning through. And then we were all attending a lot of online webinars and we knew what's going around the world. So we came up with, a very good online program that didn't just have academic classes, on Zoom. We also trained our teachers how to use Zoom because we had access to Zoom. We got paid accounts. We invested in that amount. We have a core program in which kids learn photography, calligraphy, and a lot of other things. We told those teachers to come online as well because kids were home, they were bored, they were depressed. Because we were communicating with our families so much, we knew what the parents wanted. They wanted their kids to be busy. They wanted somebody to talk to their kids, to guide their kids. And that's what we did. We all became mentors. So there were around 15 people in the team and we had 150 kids. All of us took ownership of 10 kids each. We would talk to them, we would look after them, we would ask them what problems are they facing, whether it was academic, because getting an A at that point was not a priority. What was a priority was to keep them happy, to keep them sane. All of a sudden, they were at home, they had nothing to do, they couldn't get out of the house, they were isolated, they were missing their friends. So at that point, we felt that their mental health was very, very important and we all became mentors. So like 3 months down the line, we realized that our online program was doing really well and these parents started talking. They started talking to people from other schools that they have really good application with Zoom, they have good classes, they have course happening online, they're doing everything online, they are mentoring our kids, they are guiding our kids, and that's what got the ball rolling. So like I said, all our accounts were, already licensed. We had just launched these 2 apps, but, parents were slowly and gradually, learning about them. But when COVID came, these 2 apps really helped us. This was the IXL Learning app and Chem assessments. Like I said, we were already a team who was looking at EdTech tools. But the parents were like, okay, we'll see if we want to use it or not. Kids used it, sometimes didn't use it. But then during COVID, they didn't really have a choice. And they said, okay, but because these platforms already existed, it was easier for us to get into them and start using them. So for example, IXL app we bought just 2 months before COVID came. It has around 5 billion questions online for English and maths and for all grade levels. We told our teachers, we trained them again and we said, now is your time to use this app. We told our parents and students that this app already your kids have access to. And when parents used it, they're like, oh, it's lovely, we never realized it 3 months ago. That's because they didn't want to use it. So if you look at countries like Pakistan, I don't want to comment on any other countries who are like us, but at least I can speak for my country that there was resistance to learning. There was resistance to changing things the way they are, to coming up with new ideas in education. What they don't understand is that education that was made for 100 years ago was to produce kids for the industrial age. Now the kind of skill set you need is very different because our kids might go into a career and they might have to leave it because automation will come in. So on average, our kids will change careers almost 17 times. So they need a certain skill set. Like the team we had, our kids need to be very flexible also. But the parents, the society was not flexible. But now they were forced to try new things. And when they did, they loved it, right? So they started using this app. I'm just talking about things that work for us. We tried in the first 6 months, but we were not as successful as we were when, COVID came. So for example, I had gone to a Cambridge conference in UK in 2018 and we were about to launch Chem, but nobody was really interested in what these Chem assessments are. But when COVID came, we started having admission tests with Chem online. When all the other schools delayed their admissions because they were like, we can't take an admission test online. This is not happening. How will the child give it? There will be cheating and there will be, how will we have a standardized test? We already had Chem on board. Okay, and Chem is standardized testing. So we continued with our admissions. So while admissions in other schools got delayed by 6 months, in our school we only delayed it by a month because we started the online testing. Then Cambridge exams got cancelled on the 23rd of March and Cambridge announced that it will be expected grading and you can use and we didn't know that Chem can be used. We didn't know COVID is going to come and exams will get cancelled. And then because Chem is part of Cambridge, they announced that if your kids give the Chem test, that can also be used as evidence. So we started testing them online. We replaced final year examinations of 2020 with Chem. So we could have never done all of this had COVID not come. Parents would have never realized the value of these, different type of tools as well. So you can see that Chem is also online. And when we had a chance, we used to have it in person. Then we realized that we have to really love our teachers. I mean, they are the frontline workers. They are the ones battling it every day. Yes, the admin had a lot of responsibility also, but our teachers were trying out new tools. They had so much work given by us. Use Zoom, use IXL, use Chem, get trained to work in a certain way. So they were the ones addressing content differently. They were the ones who were really helping us in this entire process. So we invested a lot of resources on their, professional. Do I only have 4 minutes?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Has the time been reduced?
No.
Okay, that's fine. So on their professional development, and therefore we launched subjects like, PSHE. So PSHE was basically, we were thinking about having a course on SEL, social emotional learning, but then COVID made us realize that our kids definitely need a very standardized curriculum that talks about mental health. So then we brought in PSHE and more EdTech tools. And so this was our coping mechanism, and then we realized that by now we knew by the summers of June and July 2020 that this is what's working for us. And we were getting more and more admissions because everybody liked our online program, so we brought in more tools like the SIS, the LMS, and the Slack. So student information system to communicate with parents more. We brought in the LMS, because that was the virtual classroom, and we brought Slack for internal communication, and that was excellent. Because everybody, you could make different groups, you could, meet your teams, you could also communicate about different topics, and also talk to your teachers. So, and we still use Slack now that we have 5 branches, we have, Slack for every branch, and it really helps. So this is how we coped, and it really helped us. And then came the academic year, and still the cases were high, so everything was online, but our team had become really strong with the whole hybrid and online program. Till now, the kids had not come back to school. We were managing everything online, but we made everybody feel special. Our first batch had graduated in 2020, and schools were shut. We sent them gifts at home. We had an online ceremony. I feel like the touch we had with our families, the way we stayed connected through technology, and the extra level of communication we had, that really made people feel special. And that's what they wanted to feel at that point. They wanted somebody to reach out to them. They wanted to feel special. If somebody used to have COVID, we used to go out of the way and help them with their academics, whether it was a team member, whether it was a student in school. Because that's what people wanted. They wanted to be cared for when you didn't know what things are going to turn out like. So when August and September, even in Pakistan, schools were off, we did a lot of online events like Express Yourself during our golden hour. We started taking part in online competitions. So again, the parent mindset. Why should we take part in competitions like SEMO? They will charge us 10,000 rupees and just a maths test online. How does it even matter? But suddenly, the thinking changed. If everything is online, then might as well take part in online competitions. We took part in the Harvard Global Essay. So you see, we started giving our kids different sort of exposure, which other kids did not have, right? And when schools opened, I felt that by that time we had really adjusted. We were strong as a team. We could run a hybrid program. We could run a robust online program for those kids because we gave the parents a choice. Send your kids to school if you want to come, otherwise you can stay home. So the kids we were the same number, like the same team that was first looking after just the kids in school was looking after 2 different programs. One who's online and needs a lot of assistance online, and then one who's coming to school. But I felt that by that time, the school knew how to look after it. Yeah, so we had kids coming back, and when they came back, we continued with events. We said, it's okay. What if out of the 200, 300 kids, only 100 kids are coming to school? They need those programs. So we were one of the first few schools in Karachi who started programs right after the kids' schools opened up, because schools were like, we are still juggling with the hybrid program, Zoom doesn't work in class. We had already passed that stage. Our tech was already sorted. So we moved one step ahead and we said, kids have come back to school, even if it's 50% of them, we should do events for them. And with social distancing, we did MUNs, we did gratitude art contests, and we had our, different events, charitable events and hybrid events, and then we used to include the people online. So there was a community of kids online, so we used to connect them on Zoom while we did all these events. So by this time, I think this was just 6 months into COVID, because of our online program, the word got around, and while schools were actually closing down, we announced like a total of 5 branches in the city of Karachi, because the number of admissions was so high. So I feel like those 6 months were so crucial for a school like us, and it was all about empathy, it was all about communication, it was all about EdTech tools, and knowing what works at that time and making your people feel special, making your kids feel special, making your team feel special, making your admin members and everyone feel special. And it's not like we didn't have challenges, it's not like we were also perfect. Cases came back, we had to, I know, I'll just take 2-3 minutes. So, cases came back, we had to continue with online hirings. We had announced 5 schools, so we had to manage that. But I feel like by this point, we were, more ready for the launch. So because I had been attending a lot of these online conferences, and so was my team, previously it was not possible to call all these people for professional development. It was unheard of. Why would somebody from Brazil or America or, different parts of the world come and talk to Cedar about what they're doing? But all these online conferences brought the educationalists together on one platform. Everybody was going through the same problems. So, we had virtual PD sessions, and we had events focusing on wellness. Like, whenever we got a chance, we used to have wellness weeks at school, because that's what our kids needed. We had sessions with, people in the field who were experts. So all of this really helped us. Like an esports event with NASIC in America. This was completely unheard of before COVID. But because I met Kevin Brown in an ISTE conference, I invited him later. So I felt the world shrunk during this time. And, and then this really helped us also. The COVID gap had basically, made the kids suffer. So they were not doing well in studies, because obviously they had been at home. So we started planning free of cost remedials and enrichment programs, and we felt that that really worked with parents, because they couldn't really send them for extra classes if they were suffering. This is not moving, yeah. And VS, which is a Middle East company, furniture, we got that because we realized that flexible furniture is what our kids needed, for different activities in school also. So I know that I'm short of time, so I'll just wrap up the whole transformation phase. So I just want to say that the team was strong enough, resilient enough in this phase, and that was our key to success. We were a very young organization, and I think that helped. We had no plan A, plan B. We just did what was needed. Our tech tools really helped our communication with parents. The fact that we changed the mindset of those 150 Pakistani families. And then we felt that we had learned so much that we even kept our own technology and education conference called SysTech, and you're all invited if you want to join virtually. It was, the first session was in November 2021, and it was very successful. We had over 500 delegates and speakers from different parts of the world. So it was in person and online, because we felt by this time we had learned so much that we could even give back. So exciting times for the school ahead. Now we are running 5 campuses. People love our online program. They really like our in-person program, and hopefully gradually we'll get away with the online program, but we are not going back to where the things were pre-COVID, because we've realized that our families have changed, our kids have changed, our team has changed, and there needs to be a different sort of education which we are looking for. We want our school to be future ready. We want our kids to be creative. We recognize that there is a COVID gap, and we are going to move ahead with, that. So this is my team. I wanted to show their picture because they've stuck by us. This was the team that made things happen in those 6 months and changed things around. And through these conferences, I met somebody from World of Work, which prepares your schools for career readiness. this person I met in a Cambridge conference. So a lot of these conferences, have really helped us. So this is it. These are a few statistics about our conference that took place, and I'll just go to the end. Our SysTech 2022 is on 29th and 30th. We are launching 3 more grades, 1, 2, and 3. Like I said, creativity is the top priority. And just a minute about Cedar culture. School is much more than a building. Love your employees, give them what they need, and they will give you back a lot more in return. Because when there's a lot of chaos going around, if you have purpose-filled interaction, that's what really matters. Be there for them in their small, days of life, their big day, their birthdays. We really cherish all these things at school. Our support staff, we celebrate with them. And I think that's what really helped us. Our EdTech tools, our empathetic nature, being there for each other, even if it's a small team, it doesn't matter. And then get moving and be innovative. Don't think that this is a fixed solution or a fixed approach to something, right? You have to not be in the part A. COVID has taught us that you have to get moving and be innovative. So there is joy in everything. You just have to change your mindset, and that's what we taught our families also. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Salman. That was wonderful. A success